What's happening, people? Thank you for tuning on in to this video, and I love you. I say that with all sincerity. If you guys like the radio show that we do, you guys can catch that on the Ticket Miami. That is the YouTube page, youtube.com/Ticket Miami. That is where you get the Tobin and Leroy show available for you live every single weekday, 6 to 10 a.m. And you guys can also get the podcast. Both those links I'll put there in the description so you guys can check that on out. Subscribe here if you haven't done so already. Give it the old thumbs up, like. And you guys are the greatest. Let's get into some funny Heat stuff that went down yesterday, and that was PJ Tucker. PJ Tucker was officially announced to the Philadelphia 76ers, and he put out a little statement as to what he expects of the Philadelphia 76ers. He says, this team is good enough to compete head-to-head with anybody in the league, and I'm going to come here and do whatever I can to help us get to the next level. Philly fans demand greatness, and it'll be up to us to get to where we need to be. He did not put in there that I'm going to go to the Hamptons and party my ass off with James Harden. That was not part of the statement, but PJ Tucker joining the rival, the hated Philadelphia 76ers. It's a strange rivalry with the Heat because it's a rivalry. There's obviously the ties there. The Jimmy Butler thing is always going to be a thing. Tobias Harris over me. But it's also one of these things where it's they've had some past playoff history before, but the Sixers have really never gotten to the heights the Heat have in this era. It's been a one-sided rivalry thus far. And, they're all living it up and saying, oh, James Harden's going to be more committed this year, even though we already just saw. I've seen more videos of James Harden partying his ass off than I have doing crunches. I've seen Kyle Lowry. Kyle Lowry's at least, I give Kyle Lowry, he's on vacation, but I also got videos of him in the sweatsuit working his ass off, getting right, getting tight. So then PJ Tucker takes to Instagram, he puts up a nice little collage of photos, and he has a little statement. He goes, what a year. True underdogs that really got it out the mud and went against all odds. Miami, you'll forever be my home. And Heat Nation, I can't thank you guys enough for the love that you show me all year. Though our journey together has come to an end, the love will forever remain the same. Beautiful, but touching. I'm going to miss PJ Tucker. I've said this. I don't know of many guys who have only played here for a year that you fall for that quickly, for the way he played the game, for the way he went about the game, the leadership that he showed, the praise that he got from the coaches, all that stuff. I am going to miss PJ Tucker. Do I think that it absolutely swings the balance between the Heat and Sixers? No. I still think the Heat did need, in some ways, to get younger. I do think that their old bodies wore down by the end of it, including PJ Tucker's. He's not a guy that likes to take time off. If Philly can get him in a way where he is more open to maintaining that throughout the regular season, I think they'll be in a better spot. He's obviously an absolute monster on defense and does all those intangible plays, and was a nice partner next to Bam Adebayo for sure. But I still think that the Heat can get past Philly for sure without him. And Jimmy Butler weighing in. Response. Him and PJ very close. And this is a couple times now. Jimmy has been open about wanting to keep these guys. He was open about wanting to keep Jay Crowder. Wanted Jay Crowder here for a long time, and was apparently very vocal about wanting to keep PJ Tucker here as well. You hope that these big swings that the Heat have putting together will come through for Jimmy, because certainly the Heat and the goal of the build that Pat Riley says is all about getting Jimmy a ring. And losing PJ Tucker, I think the thing that's interesting is the moves that they made are Victor Oladipo and Caleb Martin re-signing and Dwayne Dedmon. Are those more important than losing PJ Tucker? I think the argument there is it depends on Victor Oladipo. It depends on how this version of Victor Oladipo looks. And then, of course, what trades are there beyond. But, just assuming that the rest of this roster pretty much stays intact. I'm missing the best point here, though. Jimmy Butler takes to Instagram, and he writes, F you and Joel Embiid. Yeah, I brought him into this. Shrug emoji. So there you go. Jimmy Butler, he is not fond of PJ Tucker leaving. I'm sure he's kidding. I'm sure that he's a little, as the kids say, tongue-in-cheek, having a little bit of fun with PJ Tucker as he does with Joel Embiid and all that. But Jimmy's competitive. Jimmy is competitive, and I do think there's there will be a side of him. He loves beating his friends. We've talked to him about this before when we had him at a media day. He talked about the idea of wanting to intentionally foul Goran Dragic, wanted to beat Joel Embiid. And, after it's over, hugs and loves and has all the praise in the world for Joel Embiid. But I think that there is going to be a side of Jimmy that's like, F you, I'm going to go beat you, PJ Tucker. And that was funny to read. That was a jovial, fun thing to read there on social media with all that. But there was an interesting thing that came out. And I want to give some credit to Albert Namad, who is a capologist. If you guys don't follow him, Heat fan, but also just the stuff that he has on social media when it comes to the salary cap and all that, bar none. It's Albert Namad, Albert, ALBERT, NAHMAD. Follow him on Twitter. But he had an interesting tweet where he said, it's interesting. The Oladipo and Dedmon agreements were announced within 25 minutes of each other. The only announcement since Martin got the mid-level exception money. So what happened that they initially couldn't foresee that caused them to need to renegotiate with Victor Oladipo? A little bit of a Brian Windhorst. What's going on with the Heat salary cap? So if you don't know what he's referring to, there were reports yesterday that Victor Oladipo's deal is now a 2-year deal, that they lowered the initial year number, and he apparently now has a 2-year deal with a player option in the second year. So, interesting point from Albert Namad. What's going on with the Miami Heat salary cap? What could have possibly happened? What happened in these days since the opening of free agency where, Victor Oladipo, first thing basically reported on free agency Twitter that Victor Oladipo had signed a 1-year deal with the Miami Heat, and now it's a 2-year deal. What could possibly be going on that would want them to do that? Some of our listeners have brought up, well, does that mean that Victor Oladipo can be traded now without his consent? I don't know. I think that's an interesting question because he essentially did have a no trade clause. They would need his permission. I don't know if that changes with a player option, if he's able to move that, but it would still be a timing thing. Like if they had off-season moves in hand, if there was a Kevin Durant move or if there was a Donovan Mitchell move, you still can't move a Victor Oladipo or a Caleb Martin as of right now. So that's an interesting thing to kind of keep an eye on. And as far as the Heat's two big targets, Victor Oladipo notwithstanding, Donovan Mitchell reportedly, according to Brian Windhorst, had gone to Jazz management and has kind of given a, hey, what's up with these moves? What's going on there? And I think that's an interesting thing that he is nobody really seems to believe that Donovan Mitchell is not on the block. This talk that there's no Donovan Mitchell availability, he's not going to be gotten for anything, all that type of stuff. Nobody buys it. It's like one of these things where everybody believes it's just a matter of time, it's the right deal. Miami seems like a natural destination for him. The ties have been there for a very, very long time. It was also interesting that not only did he go to Jazz management and ask about the moves, but Rudy Gobert on his introductory press conference came out and basically said that the message that he got was something to the effect of, was told that our window had closed, that the Jazz had been given the impression to their star center that, hey, championship window, we don't believe it in anymore. So if you don't believe it anymore, do you believe it with Rudy Gobert gone and you'll truly build around Donovan Mitchell? And how much is Donovan Mitchell going to be down for that? Does Donovan Mitchell essentially want to become the Bradley Beal of Utah? And there's always been rumblings that he is not that fond of Utah, that he wants to move on to greener pastures, bigger city pastures, whether that be Miami, whether that be New York. So now you're going to ask him to stick it out through a rebuild. I can see why that's a dicey thing. And so for Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell, like the relationship has always kind of been frosty and not necessarily the best. That's interesting. So you see like that there's cap mechanisms that are going on for the Heat. Very, very quiet on the moves front other than bringing back their own guys. You would assume that the other move is Udonis Haslem. We really haven't heard anything about the Tyler Hero extension and where things stand with that. Once he signs that, obviously, will that shut the door things? I think once we hear a Tyler Hero extension, I think that would probably put to rest a lot of stuff because obviously he is going to be the forefront of a Kevin Durant trade package or a Donovan Mitchell trade package. Like, that's the best young asset that the Heat have to and are most likely willing to offer, unless, of course, with a Kevin Durant, there's a Bam. I couldn't foresee them trading Bam for Donovan Mitchell. I don't think that's realistic at all. So, interesting thing to hear that from Kevin Durant from Rudy Gobert. On the Durant front, apparently a lot of players are reaching out to him, and according to Chris Haynes, that he has gone dark. He is not responding to everybody. He's just kind of doing his own thing and is not telling anybody anything. Although I'm sure he's popping up on Twitter from time to time. That's probably the best place to get Kevin Durant. If you want to get Kevin Durant, don't text him. Just text him something slanderous. Let's see. He gave some Chet Holmgren love on Twitter. He's got some point gods that are coming out on Showtime. So he's got some ads that he's putting out on Twitter, but nothing to that effect. And this is also the interesting thing. You have Kendrick Perkins, who is now. This was weird because Kendrick Perkins, like, he is a notorious flip-flopper when it comes to takes. Like, in an industry that is full of flip-floppers and takes and guilty, been there. Nikola Jovic, untouchable. Kendrick Perkins stands out, and he was saying to the effect, because he came out, I remember watching the coverage of the day that Kevin Durant comes out, and his thought was, oh, this is courageous from Kevin Durant, that he is requesting a trade, that he is not standing for what's going on in Brooklyn. And now he's saying to the effect of, oh, well, I believe Kevin Durant is just bluffing. This is a scare tactic to get Kyrie Irving leverage in a contract negotiation, which is, I don't know, man. I think that they kind of been there, done that. I think once Kyrie Irving opted in, I think all negotiations are over. I don't think that's the case. Now, Kevin Durant and Kendrick Perkins got some ties, so maybe he knows something that I don't. Certainly he would be closer to the situation than I am. But I don't buy the fact that Kevin Durant is scaring the Brooklyn Nets. I wouldn't find it crazy if he did end up starting the season there, but I don't think this is some leverage play to get Kyrie Irving. I think that moment has passed. I think that moment passed once he opted in, and that moment now is over. He's not going into this route anymore where, we're going to try and leverage it. I think the bridges be burned. I think that's where it's at right now when it comes to this. Doesn't mean that he won't end up still playing for the Brooklyn Nets at the start of the season, but I don't think this is some negotiating ploy from Kevin Durant. I don't think that's the case here. And then some were saying, well, the TJ Warren thing is like, this shows that they're trying to make moves. Does it? I feel like you bring in a TJ Warren once you realize, hey, we're probably going to lose our two best scorers here. We need somebody to get some buckets. Let's bring in TJ Warren and let's have him on a prove-it deal. I feel like that's the move. I don't feel like TJ Warren is coming in there to be some complimentary piece to Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. That's the way I read it. So, look, man, things are still on watch for the Miami Heat, whale watching and seeing where things going, keeping an eye on boots on the gram, boots on the Twitter machine to try and see what likes matter, what follows are happening, all that type of stuff, because we got a whole lot of nothing as far as the Durant and Donovan Mitchell thing is concerned right now, at least on our front. But was interesting to see yesterday them bring back Caleb Martin and now this Victor Oladipo piece where he is now on a 2-year deal. So things could be happening in Heatland.